Hey now, I am Tanika Speaks, the founder of Life Shift, an empowerment group for teens where I teach them life skills, how to manage their emotions, how to think critically, and make good decisions. As parents, we do not come with a manual to tell us the do's and the don'ts of raising the perfect child. We all do the best that we can. So today I'm going to talk about the 4 parenting styles and how they can motivate your children. I have 3 wonderful kids. They're high flyers, they're entrepreneurs, they are musicians, baseball players, athletes, like they've done the gamut. Having creative kids, you have to take a different approach. Most parents, when their kids are in like second and third grade, they have bedtimes, 8 o'clock, 8:30. My kids would be up 3 a.m., 4 a.m., making music, singing, laughing. All of the lights were on. So I knew I had to parent a little bit differently than my mom. My mom's generation came from the thought that as a kid, you were seen and not heard. You didn't have a voice, and you do as you were told. Our generation now, the Generation X, the millennials, they have a lot of more freedom. They have a lot of ideas. The world is faster. Technology has actually rapidly changed the way we do everything, not some things, but everything. And so being a parent can be challenging when you don't understand kind of what your kid is going through. And you always ask the question, like, what is going on? Like, what are you thinking? And the bottom line is they aren't thinking. Think about when you were a teenager and the things that you found yourself getting into that may not have been good for you or your friends or your family, but you made those decisions with some type of information. It may not have been the full scope of information, but you made it with some little bit of knowledge for your impulsive decision, right? And so these kids are no different. They just have a different technology and a different, faster world. But as a parent, your parenting style pretty much fluctuates according to the circumstance. So there is the authoritative parenting style. That's the all-inclusive, the positive affirmations, the building the relationships, the giving the kids a voice. Although it's controlled, it's still structured, but you give them the freedom to be a human being. And then there's the authoritarian, which focuses on more strict obedience, punishment, like discipline, like you're not going to get away with a lot with that type of parenting style. And then there's the permissive parenting style, which is more or less you don't really have rules. You free flow, do as you will, as long as no one's killed. Like it's that type of parenting style. And then you have the uninvolved. Like the kid is there, you're there, you make sure they eat, have a home, but you're really not emotionally invested. And we have all been a combination of these things. But what I find is you have to know your child. You have to know their learning styles. You have to know their emotional capacity. You have to know like their triggers, because just like we get upset or we are frustrated, children, teens do the same thing. And if you're out there and you have teenagers, I know you are praying to God that you can get through this time. And guess what? You will. Eventually, the light will go off. They will get the messages, and all the lessons that you have taught them along the way will come back to their remembrance. Sometimes it's a slow process. Other times they get it right away. But just like you had to make your own choices. You had to fall in your own pits. You had to get up. You had to figure it out. And you turned out okay for some of us. For others, we're still growing, even as adults. But I'm here to tell you that the one thing that I encourage all of my parents to do is communicate. Have the conversations. If your kid feels off, stop them. You're going to annoy them, but you never know. That could have been the one conversation that saved them from doing something that could totally destroy their lives. Now, if you have a disobedient child, like it doesn't matter what type of style that you are employing to raise them, and they just have their own way of doing things and they don't want to listen, and you've had your wits in, pray. After you pray, develop strategies for yourself, your own coping mechanisms, so that you won't be so emotionally driven when dealing with the child. Ask the why questions. Most times when teens say they don't know, they really don't know. Let me say that again. If your teen says, I don't know why I got in that car with that particular friend, they're probably telling the truth. Ask the why questions. Well, why would you get in the car with that friend? Why did the friend invite you out of all people? Just keep asking the why questions until you get to the core of what's really going on. And so I'm going to tell you this story about a teen who had run away from home. I didn't know her mom. She was referred to me. And the mom was like at her wit's end, couldn't figure out where the child was. She had been missing for 13, 14 days. She saw that she was active on social media. And so she called me to intervene. And I went on Snapchat, found the child, snapped her. I said, you don't know me, but I'm a friend of your mom's. And if you want to talk, call me at this number at this time. So she called. And within 5 minutes, I was able to detect that she ran away, not because she wanted to. She ran away because she said her mother was negative. So at that point, I knew I had to get the mother and the child together so that they can hear each other out. Sometimes it's just a matter of listening to what's not being said. Okay? Relax. The worst that can be said or the worst that can come out of that conversation, play that scenario in your mind and then dismiss it. Because 9 times out of 10, it is less than that. Okay? So back to the story. So I met with the mom, I met with the daughter, and the mom was like, you're disobedient. You don't want to do what I say. You don't want to abide by my rules. And I had the mom pause and I said, I need you to listen to how your daughter feels. And then she said, I can't take it because you're so negative. Every day is complaining. I don't want to be here. I don't want to go to work. And it was driving her crazy. And the mom was shocked, like, I'm not negative. I have a lot on my plate. And the deflectiveness about the conversation turned to, you also aren't a good listener. And it was hard for the mom to hear that, but I feel like it was a breakthrough to say, I'm not listening for what the problem is. I'm reacting to my own plate that's overwhelmed and runneth over. And I'm taking it out on my daughter. Now, I'm not going to say the daughter was perfect because she did some pretty unkind things. However, the kids are a reflection or a mirror of a model that you, as the parent, are living. And so if there is abuse and arguing and all types of trauma in the home, and your kid is reacting in a way that they normally wouldn't, you got to check your own surroundings. You got to check your own level of consciousness. You got to check your own self-awareness to see if you're part of the problem. And then if you identify that you are part of the problem, then you need to have a conversation or get a mediator, like the mom brought me in, to sort through what's facts and what's emotion. Facts over feelings. Take the feelings out, deal with the facts, fix the facts, and then the feelings will go away magically. So I'm encouraging every parent here to know that you are not alone. Whether you have a toddler, a 13-year-old, or a 22-year-old, at the end of the day, parenting never ends. You will be a parent until your child passes away or you pass away. And even still, in death, you are still considered a parent. So it is the one lifetime role that we cannot opt out of, even if we wanted to. And there are parents who give their kids up for adoption. There are parents who are unkind to their kids. That doesn't mean that they're not their parents. That just means that they are misguided and they shouldn't have kids in the first place. That's a whole nother talk for a whole nother day. So I encourage you to, one, open the lines of communication with your children. They're not going to want to talk, but you have to find ways to get the information from them. Pay attention to the signs. If they are doing things differently, or if they are, behaving or out of character, like tap in, see what's happening. Or if you have a close friend like myself, or they're in a program like Life Shift, I co-parent. So I'll help figure out what's happening if they're not comfortable talking to you. The last thing I want to cover is, how do you know that you are a good parent? That's a question that I know every mom and dad have probably wondered in the middle of the night. You are doing the best that you can, and that's all that you can offer. There are so many tips and tools and resources out here, but at the end of the day, you have to go with what works for you. If your child is having educational difficulties, you can take them to a tutor. You can, have someone spend some extra time with them with their reading. If your child is, delayed in their development, there are centers for that, but there is no center for being a parent. You are either parenting like your parents parent you, or you are watching or modeling another version of parenting. But normally, we don't come into the world with the idea that one day we will be a parent. We're just trying to live our everyday lives and be human beings. So let yourself off the hook. Your child is on track. Their journey is their journey, just like your journey was your journey. Now, as parents, we live with a shield of fear because we know the types of mistakes we have made. And we do not want our kids to make the same mistakes. So, of course, we're going to be at the front door like, no, don't go to that party. No, don't take that drink, because we know what it did to us. But ultimately, it is their choice. You have to trust that you have done the best that you can, that you have seeded into the children the rules, the regulation, moral values, and codes, and everything that you can offer them to help them make the right decisions. And if there's a deficit in any level of their development as a parent, it is our responsibility to make sure that gap is closed. And some of us are uninvolved or unaware because we're just living our own life, trying to make it day to day, but eventually it will surface. Just like the young lady who ran away. She had to leave physically for 13, 14 days before there was any type of conversation, not yelling, not screaming, not cursing, but a conversation. So make the time, figure it out. If there's something you guys have in common with your kids, I encourage you to do those things together. That is your bonding time. That is your time to slide in those extra questions that they're not ready for, to see what they're thinking or how they're thinking. Okay? If you need help, or you are in a situation where you're like, I've done all of that, Tanika. I've had the conversations, I've set the rules, I've been, lenient in some ways, and my child is just not getting it, then I need you to go to the website, www.lifeshiftgroup.com, sign your kid up for Life Shift, and we will systematically work on elements that will help them to, one, be able to communicate what they need, how they should behave, what are their goals, how are they going to get there. We start with communication because that is the key element to any relationship, professional, personal, any relationship. Then we start working on the critical thinking, like what are you thinking at the time that you make the decisions that you make? What are you thinking about the other people involved in your life? How are you going to fix something if you broke it? So we take those times, we use hands-on games, we use things that make you want to think and change your perspective about things. And then we role play. Like, what if you were the parent? What would you say to yourself as a child? Like, those are techniques that we use. So in wrapping up, take these key points. 1, communication. Find ways to communicate with your child. Even if it's on their level and you don't even understand, listen. Be an active listener. Listen for the things that your kids aren't saying. 2, develop a plan. Have some type of accountability, check-in option, like what's happening. Set goals together and hold each other accountable. Have your child a part of their own progression, their own process. So it's not like, I'm only doing this because my mother wants me to. I'm only doing this because my father wants me to. No, they are actively involved in setting the course for their lives. If you have younger children, you can start even smaller with how helping them pick out their outfits and asking the why questions, like, why did you choose that shirt? That will help them start to critically think about when they make choices and the outcomes of those choices. And finally, take a break. If you would like more information, or you want to connect with us, go to www.lifeshiftgroup.com. I hope this information has been helpful to you. There you will find all of our social media and more information about the program. Hope to see you soon.